I am a man of honor, integrity, and promise. I pursue all righteousness. I love my family. I will not put my family in harm's way. There is nothing that will keep me from doing the right thing. I am an ambassador of hope and a man of discipline. I am a man worth following. I am a TYRO.
Welcome to TYRO TV. I'm Ron Cathy.
And I'm Cathy Tiarina.
And today we want to talk to you about a powerful word, the word called trust.
Before we get to that, we want to give you a little bit of background about Ron and I, in case you don't know who we are. So in 1991, Ron went to prison and served 15 years in prison. I was left at home with my two sons, ages 2 and 4, and we navigated through that 15 years together, growing stronger and healthier and more successful.
So we've been where you're at, and now we're hoping to take you where we're at. Okay, so now this word trust, what is that about? I mean, how do you earn trust? How do you lose trust? You know, trust is something I know all of you do not have. You know, trust is something that I forfeited, I gave away, and I had to work hard to re-earn it. Not only trust that Cathy would trust me, but my family, my employers.
So trust is a two-way street. I mean, first of all, we have to learn to let people in and trust them within us. And secondly, we have to earn the place to be trusted by other people. And so as we talk about trust today, we really want you to think about all of those bridges that have been burned in your life. The bridges you burned and also the bridges that other people have burned towards you.
You know, the scary thing is about trust is, will somebody ever take you at your word again? Will they ever look past the label that you now have, which is felon? You know, that may be the case for the rest of your life. They may never ever give you another chance, but you can't let that stop you from becoming a man worth following, a man being taken at his word, or somebody that you can be trusted.
So once we found ourselves in prison and we were on this journey, it was very, very difficult. It was difficult to regain trust between us. It was very difficult for me to trust anybody to let them into my life. I was fearful and trying to figure out, okay, who is it that's really going to walk with me, be my friend, and give me the right advice that's going to help me get my goals and accomplish what I wanted to accomplish?
Well, here, let me take you a little bit back. Here I am, sentenced to 14 and 25 years, and I'm 25 years old, and I'm tripping, I'm freaking out, but I want Cathy to know that I'm worth waiting for. I'm worth the effort that it's going to take for us to maintain a relationship, that you can trust me now that I'm not getting high, I'm not drinking. All of a sudden I've changed. But you know what? It didn't happen like that. It didn't happen overnight. I had to earn this trust. I had to convince her by my actions, by letters I've written, by the visits we've had, by the phone calls, by the way I spoke to her.
And Ron, that was a key word. I mean, you used the word action. So trust is rebuilt through actions. You know, it was the actions and the things that happened that tore down that trust. So let's talk a little bit about those things before we get to the place of how we tell people how to rebuild trust. What are the things in people's lives that really tear down trust?
Well, you know what? One of the things that tore down trust between us, and you know, I want to say this. You know, we're inviting you into our lives, and we're going to be so transparent that we want you to be successful. So one of the things that we talk about my infidelity. You know, where I actually stepped out on Cathy and did what infidelity is. And I broke her heart. I broke the bridge. I burnt it. And I was untrustworthy because I could not be taken at my word. So now I've created a lifestyle for Cathy to always be in a state of mind battles, wondering, am I where I'm supposed to be? Am I with the people I say I'm with? You know, am I coming home on time? You know, and things like this. And now she's living.
Once you introduce that type of pain, whether it's infidelity, whether it's sexual infidelity, whether it's financial infidelity, whatever that infidelity is that creates that breach in trust and creates this chasm between you and someone else, whether it's you and your kids or you and your spouse, you and your girlfriend or boyfriend or parents, once you breach that, then they're sitting on one side, you're sitting on the other, and what they're weighing is how much of a risk are you? That and the amount of risk you are is directly proportionate to the amount of trust I'm going to have towards you. So if you are low risk, I have high trust. If you are high risk, I have really low trust or no trust. And so what what you have to look at is like, how much of a risk am I to be in relationship with? How much of a risk do people take that I'm going to take advantage of them, that I'm going to hurt them, that I'm going to cause them pain? Because if it's a great risk, then
you're not going to put that much of an investment in this, you know. And I knew at the beginning of my incarceration, the beginning of our journey, I was a great risk. I was a lame. I didn't have no conscience of what it meant to be a friend. You know, how are you going to invest in somebody who doesn't know how to be honest? How are you going to invest in somebody who doesn't know what the word trust means? Because I breached it, I broke it, and now I had to do everything that I could from behind prison to fix it.
So when you think about trust, when we talked about just a little bit ago, think about all the places and the times that you have done things that have burned bridges, and also the things that other people have done. So when we think about things you've done, those are easier things because you have all the power and control to change that, to do something different and rebuild trust.
The first thing you got to do, dads and men, the first thing you got to do, and I'm telling you, it works if you mean it from your heart, is say, I'm sorry.
So trust is imperative. If you want to be successful and you really want to flourish, then you've got to learn to rebuild trust.
You know, in the environment you guys are at, you know, trust is hard to find. Because you're in an environment where nobody trusts anybody. You don't trust the system. You don't trust the guy you're selling with, because nobody knows anybody to the depth that where trust can really manifest and grow. You know, so when we come back, we're going to talk about the situations that you find yourself in, and also some remedies to help build and create the trust that you need in your life to become successful.
TYRO Dads will help you to see who you really are on the inside by coming to terms with your past, present, and future. You will begin to move forward by using your time on the inside to transform yourself. We know you are not the only one serving time. Your family is too. Overcoming the issues that existed prior to and during incarceration are often more than many families can survive. TYRO Dads has a unique method of reaching and healing families based on Ron and Cathy Tiarina's own personal experience with incarceration. TYRO Dads works exclusively with incarcerated fathers who have minor children. The program lasts for 10 weeks and focuses on intensive character development. You'll be taught to take responsibility for your actions, to own it. You will be prepared to overcome the obstacles of your incarceration and transition back into your home and community, both successfully and permanently. Upon successful completion of this program, you will earn the title of TYRO, which means a warrior, someone learning something new. You'll be one of the honored, a man worth following.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. Today, we're talking about trust. We're talking about issues that cause and create distrust. And now we want to share with you some tips on how to rebuild trust and some actual action items.
You know, the first thing you got to do, guys, is you got to apologize. You got to own it, and you got to apologize. You got to be sincere when you say, I'm sorry, because she can read right through it. Mm-hmm. You know, I know.
And your kids can see right through it.
And they can see right through, a lane. Right. So when you tell your lady, when you tell the mother of your children, you're sorry for letting them down, when you're sorry for disappointing them, you're sorry for not being the man you convinced them you were. Right.
And the second thing you have to do is own your story. And so when Ron's talking, he's saying, apologize. And sometimes it's the people on the street that owe an apology. Sometimes it's the people inside that owe an apology. But make that apology a part of your new culture in your family. And as you own your story, which is step 2, that means telling the truth, the whole truth. Don't hold something back for fear that it's going to create more pain. Because if they hear it from somewhere else, or you tell them later, then you've broken down that bridge that you've just begun to build. So when you're owning your own story, you're telling the whole thing. And you're saying, you know what? I was wrong. This is what I did. This is how it happened. This is when. This is where. This is who.
I mean, if you can really come to that place in your walk, guys, and become that transparent, healing begins. Mm-hmm. Because now everything's out in the open. There's no more hidden skeletons. And your greatest disease is your greatest secret. So it's time to get it out.
And then you rebuild respect at the same time as you're rebuilding trust.
Well, the third thing is allowing others to tell you how, not only how they felt if they were part of the scenario you're talking about,
the story,
but also to hear how they saw it at their vantage point. Allowing them to tell you, well, this is what happened, or this is how I saw it. You're telling your side. Well, let me tell you my side.
Right. This is how what happened impacted me. And that, apologizing and owning your story tend to be the easiest points. Once we get to the place where we're encouraging people to say, okay, now you have to listen to how your story impacted the people around you.
How it infected them.
That's really tough.
How it infected them or it impacted them. And that's hard to hear because you're talking about 20 years later. Let's say you committed infidelity 20 years ago and your wife and you guys are watching a movie and all of a sudden something triggers and it reminds her of what happened in the past. And she brings it up and you're in your mind, you're like, man, that happened 20 years ago. Why is she still talking about it? Mm-hmm. You can't go there, guys. You gotta be, you have to let that go and you have to say, you know what, sweetheart? And I'm glad that guy's dead. I'm glad I don't live like that anymore. But if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it.
Right. Giving each other permission, giving in your family or your relationships, giving each other permission to be honest and open is going to really build trust. I mean, of the three so far, that one is huge.
And the last one is forgiveness. Because you can't really earn trust between you and your lady at all if there's no forgiveness. So not only do you got to forgive yourself, but you got to forgive her or she's got to forgive you.
And we found actually in our relationship that often, like if we stumble and if we mess up and there's some sort of trust that was broken and we go through the healing process, it's normally the one that breached the trust that has the hardest time forgiving themselves. Because it's like, okay, if there's forgiveness offered and you can accept the other person's forgiveness, but if you continue to live with the guilt and you continue to live with that limp, then what's going to happen is you're going to repeat it again. So you've got to go through the entire process of forgiveness, of forgiving yourself and forgiving the other person or accepting their forgiveness.
Now, I know that trust is so huge in prison and it's hard to find, but it's possible.
So when you're thinking about trust and you're going through these process of the places, doing the apology first, start there. Once you do the apology, that's going to open the door for communication. And sometimes that initial communication, you might go straight from apology to hearing their side of the story. So these 4 steps aren't always going to occur in order. But these are the 4 things you have to do if you really want to rebuild trust.
And you got to be willing to allow this process to take place on however it's going to take place, from step 1 to step 4 to step 3. There's no sequence here. But
it's
you got
like
to be
a dance.
You got to be willing to dance, you got to be willing to move, but the bottom line is healing, becoming healthy, learning to build that bridge of trust between one another. And I'm telling you, fellas, once this happens and you're able to look at your wife or your lady in the eye, and when you tell her, I am sorry, she knows from the bottom of your heart that you mean it.
That's right. So as we come back, we're going to talk about how trust really impacts your family and your children and what you can do to create a culture of trust for your kids, even while you're still inside.
Playing catch, basketball, laughing and enjoying each other's company. These are all normal things on the outside, but many times are missed in a visitation setting. TYRO Dads brings the same fun experience to the inside through Family Days. As a TYRO Dad, you have the opportunity to participate in this fantastic event. Family Day is designed to allow fathers and families to engage with each other through activities designed to stimulate communication, learning, and play. Family Days will not only be a highlight for you, but for your children as well. The Ridge Project has strategically developed Family Day as an opportunity to help you connect with your child throughout your separation and help both of you develop skills to continue building your relationship when you return home.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Kathy.
And I'm Ron.
And we're so excited to have you here today as we talk more about trust. So we talked about some of the trust issues and the breakdown of trust, and now we want to share with you how to rebuild trust. What can you do while you're still inside to begin to build those bridges?
The first thing you got to do, fellas, is you got to say you're sorry, man. I know some of you guys are tough and hard and you're a hard criminal and all that, you convict. But if you do not say you're sorry, you might as well just stop. because you're not going to get any further with your people because they already know, that you burn a lot of bridges. But when you can humble yourself and you can put yourself in their shoes and see the type of ramifications and the torment and the fire that you took them through.
And the pain.
And the pain and suffering, that you can come to a place and you can look at your wife and your children and your family. Because once you can really own your story, that's the second step. But and tell your family, I'm sorry. Because then you gotta say you're sorry to the community, and you're gonna have to apologize to a lot of people. But that's where trust begins.
And then owning your story. No more excuses. No more, well, if she wouldn't have, if he wouldn't have, well, my mama, my daddy, my neighbor, my grandma. It's so easy to find all of the reasons and all of the things along the way that led you up to that point. But in the end, it was really our responsibility for our action or our lack of action that created pain for someone else. And so we have to own our story. What is our part in it? What is it that we did and that we made a conscious decision or choice to do?
There was a time in prison where Cathy, we were on the phone, and I was in a prison, of course, and she's at home, and she asked me the question that she's asked me years before I went to prison, if I ever stepped out on her, if I ever had an affair on her. And all the time prior to going to prison, I would, I'm in denial, I'm lying, I'm saying, no, I love you, I love you, I love you. But all that time, she knew the truth. So finally, I'm in prison, and this is it. She asked me one more time, did you go out on me? And I told her the truth. I was far away. I was in a prison. I'm in a cell, and all this type of stuff. So maybe that had a lot to do with it. But it wasn't easy. I still had to be real with not only myself, but with what I had done. And I told Cathy the truth. And when I told her the truth, I knew not only had I broken her heart, but I broke us. And I was willing to do whatever it took to fix us, whatever it took to help us stay together. And the first thing I had to do was not only be honest with her, but be honest with myself. And I had to apologize.
Right. So apologize, own your story. And the third one is you have to listen. You have to let the other people that were affected or infected by your story, that were part of that journey, you have to let them share from their vantage point what that was like, how it impacted them.
And this is risky business right here.
Yeah,
because you're laying it all out there. And when I told Cathy, I'm already in prison, all she had to say was, I'm out of here, you're on your own. You know what? I already knew. I was just waiting for you to tell me. And so I'm taking a chance. But I was willing to take a chance because I want to own my story. I don't want to live with this on my back anymore. I want to grow. I want to be the man that she saw that I knew I wasn't, but I wanted to become that. So sharing and owning my story and telling her that I love her and that I'm sorry that I hurt her, that began something new for us.
So the next step is really listening, because you've asked for forgiveness, you've apologized. Secondly, you've owned your own story, and now you have to listen, because owning your story is saying it from your vantage point and how it hurt you and what happened in you.
This is a tough one.
Yeah, now you have to, if you really want to rebuild trust and really do it for real, not just heal the wound lightly, but rebuild it, then you have to listen. And you have to let the other people tell their story on how your actions or inactions impacted them.
And that's a tough one, because now that I got it off my chest, it's over, right? I don't really got to do anything.
Only it were that easy.
So,
gosh darn it, now I got to hear how I hurt you.
And so really coming to a place of where allowing Cathy now to express in her heart, you know what, not only did I know, but let me tell you something, mister. That type of, and so I'm bracing for the big D word to come. Because remember, this is risky business. This is risky. I'm going to expose myself, put it out there. But to hear her say, you know what, I already knew, I already forgave you, now I'm willing to grow with you. But something in us took place.
But that couldn't come. It couldn't come to that place until he was willing to care enough to go through it again, to experience it again through my eyes. Because it's difficult to experience pain once, on your own journey, but then to go back and journey with someone else, that's where you're really, really getting the heavy duty rocks in place of rebuilding trust. Because you've got to rebuild that wall around your relationship, and that wall is rebuilt by blocks of trust. And you want the heavy, sturdy ones, you got to be willing to suffer through the pain of what you caused somebody else and walk back through it with them.
And that's tough, but it's worth it. It's worth it to bring that type of foundation and starting all over again, rebuilding this relationship, this friendship, this marriage, and realizing that restoration can happen.
Right.
It could take place. And then the last one
is forgiveness. Forgiveness is the fourth one, and it's the cement that holds it all together. These aren't necessarily these 4 steps of apology, owning your own story, listening to the other person's journey, and forgiveness aren't always going to go in that order. But forgiveness is really also a journey in and of itself, because forgiveness is not just forgiving the other person, not just accepting that forgiveness, but also forgiving yourself.
And for Cathy and I, yes, she forgave me, but I had to earn that trust. I had to earn forgiveness. I had to let her know that that this is salvageable, that we can make it, that we can overcome this. Because, trust is key to any relationship.
And it wasn't just that, but it was also you forgiving yourself. Because I think it was easier for me once I saw that he's owning his story and he's really truly apologizing and willing to take on my journey and pain, then the forgiveness was easy for me to offer to him. What was difficult for him was really to forgive himself. And and we're talking about one instance of infidelity, but what the truth is, in any relationship, there's all kinds of places and opportunities for trust to break down. It's not just infidelity. These are the same principles, though, that you're going to apply to any place where your trust is broken down in your relationships.
So we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the trust that's broken down in a family and how to fix that and what it's going to take to save your family.
TYRO Dads will help you to see who you really are on the inside by coming to terms with your past, present, and future. You will begin to move forward by using your time on the inside to transform yourself. We know you are not the only one serving time. Your family is too. Overcoming the issues that existed prior to and during incarceration are often more than many families can survive. TYRO Dads has a unique method of reaching and healing families based on Ron and Cathy Tiarina's own personal experience with incarceration. TYRO Dads works exclusively with incarcerated fathers who have minor children. The program lasts for 10 weeks and focuses on intensive character development. You'll be taught to take responsibility for your actions, to own it. You will be prepared to overcome the obstacles of your incarceration and transition back into your home and community, both successfully and permanently. Upon successful completion of this program, you will earn the title of TYRO, which means a warrior, someone learning something new. You'll be one of the honored, a man worth following.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Cathy Tiarina.
And I'm Ron Tiarina.
And today we've been talking about trust. Trust is a big, huge deal in prison and also on the street. We talked about things that create distrust and things that we can do to actually rebuild those bridges of trust. And now we want to talk a little bit about how trust or distrust affects or infects a family and especially children.
Dads out there that went to prison. You guys went to prison. So your children are hurting. They're hurting for you. And they're mad at you. And you have to allow them to walk in that pain instead of taking it personal. Because you're not there for them. You're not there to teach them how to ride a bike. You're not there to teach them how to shave. You're not there how to teach your daughter how to qualify a guy if she's at the age of dating. You're not there to protect her. So she or your son or your daughter, they're having to navigate through this life without you. And that's hard because they were counting on you, Dad, to help them face life.
And in their eyes, this was a choice. You chose something else over them, whatever that was, whether it was drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's violence, whatever it was. You chose something else, and so you broke that trust. And so they have all of this pain, and they have all of this anger, and they have every right to be angry, and they have every right to be able to grieve and to be able to articulate to you what it is they're going through. We find a lot as we work with dads, and we work with families, that dads say, I'm tired of every time I talk to my son or daughter, they want to remind me how I'm in prison, and so I've left them alone. And so I just tell them, you know what, if that's all you have to say, I'm done talking. That's the biggest mistake you could make.
So Dad, what you're saying is it's still about you. You're still telling your family that you're number one. You know, we work with dads who haven't even told their families they're in prison. They're still telling their families that they're off to war, or they're at college, or they're off site at a job place or something like that. Well, quit lying. It's time to own your story. You want to build trust, then you got to tell your children where you're at, because I promise you somebody is.
And this journey of rebuilding trust, and this is lifelong, because what this journey you have just put your kids on. Let's say we work with guys through the incarceration and back home into their children's lives, and they'll say, well, I was gone for 5 years, and now I've been home for 2 years, and my son or daughter are still doing this or doing that. And Ron is quick to tell them, listen, they just went through torture for 5 years. Of course the scars are still there. It's your job to recognize those scars, to acknowledge your part in those scars, and to help to rebuild the trust so that they can share their pain with you, so that they can move beyond those scars.
But Dad, if you're still living for you, man, you have a long journey ahead of you, because your children, you have to allow them to navigate through what they're going through. You went through something and you lived to tell about it, but they also are going through something and they have to live to tell about it.
I want to share a story.
All right.
So when Ron was released, he was released the first time in 2001. And so my sons would have been 11 years, or 2 and 4, so like 14 and 13, somewhere in there. And so Ron comes home, and now for 10 and a half years, we've been navigating without Ron at home. So the second night Ron's home, we're getting ready to have dinner, we set the table, and Blake, our oldest son, goes and sits at the head of the table. So Ron walks in and says, hey, Blake, that's my seat. And Blake's like, nope, it's my seat. Ron's like, no, it's my seat, I'm home now. So I'm standing in the kitchen, and I see them kind of looking at each other, so I walk over and say, Blake, move. And so, of course, what does Blake do? He gets up and he moves. So Ron sits down, we have dinner, and then Blake gets up as quick as he can.
Well, what happened was I started talking about what I was going to do when dinner was over. I was going to take out the garbage. I was going to straighten things up. I was going to do everything that the man of the house is supposed to be doing.
So Blake jumps up, goes and does all of the things Ron said that Ron was going to do. So the next night, we're sitting back down at the table. Where's Blake?
Sit at the head of the table.
At the head of the table. So I walk over and I look and I'm like, in that moment, I knew that this trust relationship between Blake and Ron was theirs, that I had to step out of it, because the night before I had intervened, but I already had Blake's trust. And so I said, you know what, let me just stay out of it and let them navigate it. So as I'm watching this, I'm watching them both kind of square up, and I'm thinking, oh man, that this could get intense. And so Ron walks over and says, Blake, this is my seat. And Blake's like, this is not your seat, Dad, this is my seat. I've been sitting in this seat for almost 11 years. And so I watch them, and I'm thinking, oh man, there's going to be a fist fight. But I got to let them work it out. So Ron just reaches over, he puts his hand on Blake's shoulder, and Blake's like, I see Blake clenching his fist, like if he tries to move him, he's going to get punched. And Ron says, Blake, I'm home now. You get to just be the son. I'm home. You don't have to carry this weight anymore. And so Blake took this big, deep breath, and he didn't know what to do with it, because he was expecting Ron to demand his place. And so Blake moved over to the side of the table. And even 6 months later, Ron had to go back to prison because the Court of Appeals overturned his release. And Blake never sat at the head of the table in our house again, because Ron had demonstrated to him, not by telling him, but by showing him, I am trustworthy, and I'm going to take care of you. I value you, and I'm going to protect you.
And that was a great moment for my son and I to begin a healing process. I've been home now for a little while, but we're still healing. We're still working through my 15 years of incarceration, of not being there for him. This is not going to go away overnight, guys.
But we're doing it because we're healthy.
Yes.
We're healthy. And so we're not ignoring it. We're not allowing distrust or mistrust to come into our culture. Instead, we are doing all of the things that we just told you to do. Apologize, owning our story, and then listening to how it's affecting other people, and then offering and accepting forgiveness. So we'll be back in just a moment to talk more about how important trust is as you navigate from the inside to the outside, and where trust can take you as you rebuild it.
Completion of TYRO Dads is just the beginning of the opportunities available to you. As a TYRO Dad, you will be eligible to participate in workforce strengthening services to help prepare you for employment and open the doors to economic stability for you and your family. The Workforce Strengthening Program starts with job ethics training. Once completed, you may be eligible to receive training to acquire your commercial driver's license while still inside prison. If getting a CDL is not for you, then there is also a welding training program you may be eligible for. As more programs are being added, there really is something for almost everyone.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Cathy Tiarina.
And I'm Ron Tiarina.
And we're so glad you joined us today as we talk about trust issues. We talk about distrust, mistrust. We talk about how to rebuild it and the impact it has on your family.
You know, as I look at my life today and where I am, and I've only been out of prison now going on 8 years, and I'll tell you, it's been an amazing journey. But has it been easy? By no means has it been easy, but it's been worth the work and the effort that it takes to earn people's trust. I mean, I look at my life today, but I first had to earn the trust of my family. And once I was able to accomplish that, and I work at this every day, guys. Every day when I wake up, I know all eyes are on me. I know for the rest of my life I'm on probation because all eyes are on me, and I allow that to happen. I love to be held accountable to a higher standard. And so by allowing that to happen in my life, not only have I been able to earn the trust of my sons, my little girl, my wife, but not only that, my peers, from my peers to the community, from the community to the state and to the nation.
And not only that, I mean, Ron, it is amazing. Did you ever think when you first went to prison that you would come out of prison and you would be heading up a nationally recognized organization and having so many people look to you and trusting you to lead them to a place of success?
You know what? That was the farthest thing that I was thinking about. I was just trying to get home, just trying to get home, and then allowing our past, really, our past did not define who we were, but it qualified us for something greater because we earned the trust of the people. We earned the trust of somebody who was greater than us. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is, dads. If by working hard to earn the trust of the people around you, we guarantee you success. Now, is this going to happen overnight? No. But if you're willing.
That's right. It's so absolutely worth the journey to rebuild that trust. And so we want to take a few moments now. We want to hear from one of our TYROs and what success looks like in his life.
It took me, I was doing this for 18 years, and out of them 18 years, I got 2 numbers. And I just got tired. My last number, man, I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm not setting no goals for my kids, you know what I mean? They looking at me like, Dad, you really don't have time for me. And so this last time I went to jail, it just really broke me. Like, I got to change. I can't keep taking them through this thinking I was helping them, but I really was hurting them, you know what I mean? And that really opened my eyes. So it was time for a change. So the Ridge Project, and they doing it, man. They doing it. The Ridge program signed up with PI&I, and they said they'd give me a chance, and I just haven't looked back from there. And when I'm on the road, I just think about how blessed I am to be in this position, and you know what I'm saying, to leave a legacy for my kids and show them how hard working pays off. Yeah. Since being a TYRO dad, my life's been changed with my relationship with my wife. Been more understanding, and I've been having more time to spend with my kids as well than ripping running the streets like I used to do back in the day. But it's just, TYRO is just wonderful. It's not words to explain. It's just been teaching me grounded. Yeah. I don't have to worry about where my next dollar coming from because I got a for sure job and steady income coming in. So I just don't worry about anything now. I just leave it all in the hands of God, and He's just been guiding me. He got the steering wheel. I just sit in the seat. When I first got my truck, it was just overjoyed. I mean, really, like, I didn't know what to really think. I was like, I accomplished my goals. This was what I wanted, and I worked for it, and I got it. It was beautiful. And then I parked it right down the street from my grandparents' house. That was even more. I just feel bigger than I used to feel when I was just absolutely just running the streets and doing absolutely nothing. And now that I'm with the TYROs and Ridge Project, I'm just been a man worth following. So it's just great. I'm a TYRO for sure. I represent, yeah.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Well, thanks for joining us today on our show as we talked about trust and the things that break down trust and how to rebuild trust to redefine your family's legacy.
Always remember, as long as you got breath, then you got a chance. You got a chance to build a new legacy for your families. You know, in prison, the mindset is I came in alone and I'm going home alone. Well, that's a lie, because you can earn the trust of your peers right there. And that's where you got to do it. You have to begin right where you're at. If you want anybody to come and say, I forgive you and I trust you, then work at it. Ask them, can I earn your trust again? We guarantee you, if you can begin this process with first asking, you know what, can I earn your trust again? What do I got to do to earn your trust? We guarantee you it will happen.
Ron's right. It's never too late to rebuild trust and to restart your journey, to push reset. I never imagined the relationship that we have now could ever exist. But by Ron being brave and having the courage enough to take the first step, we were able to rebuild trust that changed our lives and our legacy.
Until next week, I'm Ron Tiarina.
And I'm Cathy Tiarina.
And always remember, we are rooting for you.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of integrity.
I am a man of faith. I am the antidote.
I am a man of discipline. I am a leader.
I am strong.
I am a man worth following.
I am a TYRO.